Hello there, welcome to another episode of the Allotment Dram. This is a series of short videos where we sit and talk about different whiskies in the surroundings of our North London allotment. You join me here today on what's been quite a nice afternoon actually, quite warm. Certainly warm when you're getting on doing a few jobs, fairly laborious jobs like weeding and cutting grass and so on. But yeah, a little bit grey, but other than that, it's actually quite nice. But you didn't really click on this video to hear about weather conditions in North London in mid-April, so I'll get on with the main feature, which is the Allotment Dram. And what is it today, I hear you ask? Well, it's a new whiskey, so always very exciting when we receive a sample or a bottle of a new whiskey, particularly if it's from a distillery that we quite like or quite familiar with, and that's the case in this. It's the Glendronach Cask Strength Batch number 10. So they released this Glendronach from the East Highlands, and they released this cask strength bottling, relatively small batches, sort of annually. The last couple of editions have been a little bit held up by the COVID pandemic and everything surrounding that, but hopefully from next year it will go back to being sort of roughly a year, every year or so. And with this they decide to, Dr. Rachel Barry hand selects casks of different ages and then puts the batch together. And she uses, Glendronach's very well known for its use of the old sherry casks, so and she picks, in this case, there's Oloroso sherry and Pedro Jimenez sherry casks at play. So different ages of whiskey. So you've got some younger whiskey giving the power, and then you've got some older whiskies giving like the depth and the complexity. Yeah, Oloroso sherry, if you're not sure, is like a medium to dryish style of sherry. And that's what you see. If you see sherry cask on a whiskey, 9 times out of 10 it will probably be an Oloroso sherry cask that's been used. Pedro Jimenez, on the other hand, is like a sweet dessert style of sherry. It's almost sticky, treacly, very, very nice, but very sweet. So both of these types of casks have been used in this with a mix of different ages. So it's bottled as a no-age statement, and of course the beauty of this is that Dr. Rachel Barry, who's the master blender for the Glendronach, and her predecessors deliberately make each batch a little bit different, so you can push things in slightly sort of different directions. So yeah, the exact number of bottles they didn't actually release in or show in the press release, but it's bottled at the natural cask strength when all of those different barrels that Rachel Barry has put together, it's the natural strength that all of those come out to, which is 58.6 in this case. And again, each batch has a different strength and is non-chill filtered and of natural colour, of course, as most products like this are. But Glendronach's a lovely place. If you ever get the chance to visit it, there up in the sort of East Highlands, rural Aberdeenshire, surrounded by the barley fields. So particularly if you go in August, September, sort of late summer, that sort of time, all the fields are golden all the way around, and it sits in this lovely little dip sort of in the valley there. So Glendronach actually means Valley of the Brambles as well in Gaelic. So I think there's probably enough chat. I've had 4 minutes or so of me kind of waffling on about that, but I think it's time that we actually tried this new whiskey. And as I say, I'm going to tread a bit carefully because it is 58.6%. So sometimes those whiskies can be pretty feisty. But let's pour a little bit out and then give our own assessment. Because I always say, when you've got cask strength whiskies, try them first, and then you can choose firstly whether you put water in, and then secondly how much water you put in. Because everyone will have their own kind of point where the whiskey feels just perfect, and for some people that might be with no water at all. Some other people it might be with a little dribble in. Some people it might be with 2 or 3 dribbles in, and quite a lot of water. So let's have a smell and a taste, and then we'll make a little assessment. So, see, lovely, well, from the bottle as well, you can see this lovely sort of dark, coppery sort of colour. And oh, lovely, sort of very big, bold, expressive nose. Lots of caramel to start with. Caramel and dried fruits. There's certainly some like currants, raisins, sultanas. Possibly a bit of that candied orange peel under there as well. Be a caramel type of sweetness and richness as well. Underneath there's just a little sort of suggestion of like some fruit cake, you know, sort of you know, brandy soaked, cognac soaked fruit cake, toasted nuts, and then some sort of earthy spices underneath, quite sort of woody, almost like baking spices. But let's have a taste. Wow, sorry, this is like sip and savour, so take my time. But what's firstly quite surprising is this is big and bold and expressive, just like the nose was, and like you sort of expected. But the actual feel, you know, you've got 58.6% ABV here, actually feels, you're very balanced for that. And I guess that's where the skill of like these master blenders comes in, you know, to make things, even though it's pretty punchy, to make it so balanced and actually quite sort of dangerously drinkable at that sort of strength, I would say. But yeah, quite delicious. There's again a lot of, seems to be quite layered. This first layer is this sort of the dried fruits, the sort of dried fruits that we spoke about on the nose, so like raisin and sultana in particular. Definitely a bit more candied orange this time. And then comes this big, rich, sweet caramel that we also had on the nose, but just kind of comes through on sort of different timings now. And then third, you've got this sort of lovely sort of build up of spices. You know, it starts off with this sort of fruit cake, the cognac soaked fruit cake, gets a bit more towards like Christmas cake, Christmas pudding, which, you know, a lot of people say as descriptors for, you know, sherry cask matured whiskies. But out of that, the fruitiness almost kind of starts to fade a little, and it's the spices that you associate with, you know, a good Christmas cake or pudding or a fruit cake that come through. So you've got cinnamon, you've got some allspice, you've got some mace, you've got almost like a little gingerbread sort of hint as well. But yeah, starting to get, you know, a minute or two after tasting it, it's now starting to get quite dry, sort of on the side of the tongue. You're quite woody, particularly that cinnamon coming through. But let's have another quick taste. Yeah, quite delicious. What I'm actually going to do, there's a little bit more coming through. It's almost like it's like a hint of tropical fruits, and maybe like a really juicy peach or apricot or something like that now. But what I'm going to do is, obviously I've said it's, you know, very well balanced at this, but I'm just going to add a little dash of water actually to it with my water bottle here, because obviously most people would want to put some water in at this sort of strength, so I'm just going to put a tiny dash in just to see what happens with it. So instantly it's a little bit more honeyed, golden syrup, a bit of that spikiness from the nose is gone, but it's also lost a little bit of that boldness. So let's have a taste. And again, it's much softer. It's kind of deadened all of those spices, made it much more sort of fudgy and toffee-like. Still pretty nice, but, you know, if I had to choose, I'd say I'd probably go for it sort of without the water, to be honest. But, you know, if you get a bottle of this, or are lucky enough to, you know, try try a dram of it in a bar somewhere, then of course you can do what you like. You know, try it, see what happens, and you know, form your own judgment. But I think that's probably about it from myself and the Glendronach Cask Strength Batch number 10. We will leave you to get on to do whatever you were doing before you happen to find this video, and we will get on with a few more jobs before we head off home. But thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again for another Allotment Dram very soon. Cheers!